Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us. You, as everyone can see, are a doula in Leeds, and very happy that you chose Nurturing Birth to train with. What I'd love you to do, if you don't mind, is to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, about your family, if you want to, if you're happy to share, and what brought you to the point that you're at now with, becoming a doula.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thanks for asking me as well. So I'm Charlotte. I am a doula and hypnobirthing antenatal teacher, and I'm based in Leeds. I have two daughters, aged 5 and 8, and a very grumpy cat and a very needy dog. And I previously worked in the fashion industry and worked in London, and then I moved to Leeds, had my first daughter, and I'd kind of it just opened my eyes to obviously the birth world and hypnobirthing antenatal education, and I loved it. And I trained to be a hypnobirthing teacher, and then with that, it obviously opened up the door to supporting parents to be. And I just kind of, for quite a while, had trained to be a doula on my wish list. Yes, I was thinking about training to be a doula for a long time because I was just getting so much joy out of just the support that I was giving to parents anyway, and it just seems like the next logical step. And I booked in a call with Sarah, and we had a chat, and it was lovely, and just kind of a really good vibe check in terms of I knew some doula programs that are like maybe it's much more holistic, and I kind of feel like that's maybe not where I'm at right now. I think I remember saying to Sarah, on the scale of like knows anything about herbs, like I know nothing about herbs, love a sound bath. That's like where I'm at. And I think you were like, me too. So I was like, I feel like we're gonna connect. And we did, and I'm really glad that I chose Nurturing Birth, because it just kind of the I feel like the program was really comprehensive in terms of the before work. Sarah knows I'm a bit of a kind of what would I describe? I like a course, so I'm like quite information hungry. So I've done various different courses with different people, and so there was a bit of crossover there, which was completely fine. And it just kind of like reaffirmed that, and now I'm on a self-imposed training ban to just do the work, which my godmother, who's a retired midwife, said to me a long time ago, was like, Charlotte, you just need to do the work. I think I felt quite a bit of like comfort in, but I need to do this course and then I need to do this. And it's like, actually, you just need to do it. You need to jump in and do it. And I think the only regret I have, and this is quite common for me, is that I mull over, oh, should I do it? Should I do it? Should I do it? And then when I finally decide, yes, I'm going to do it, I'm like, why didn't I do it like 6 months earlier? Like, because I 100% knew it was the right thing. It just took me a little while to get there. And then when we did the actual in-person course, I didn't really know what to expect, but it was just, I guess it wasn't potentially what I expected, but it was everything I needed in a really weird, if that sounds, um, it was so, I mean, the name of Nurturing Birth is nurturing, but it was really nurturing. There was a lot of information, and also like the business information as well was really, really helpful. When I first did my hypnobirthing training, it was very much like, this is how you do it, and then pat you on the head and see you later. There was no ongoing support either for like emotionally or businessy. It was kind of, yeah, like, see ya. Um, and so things like the cuppa are really, really good for that. And I've sometimes just turned up with nothing to say, but just being in that space with other doulas who have so much wisdom to share, it makes me feel really uplifted. And yeah, it's just like a nice virtual cuddle, really. Um, so yeah, is that I can't even remember what you asked me in the question.
That's brilliant. No, that's lovely. I can't remember either. We wanted to hear about sort of yeah your journey to this point where you're at. So, okay, so you've mentioned some really lovely things there that I wanted to talk about. So first of all, Let's go to that you weren't sure what to expect, and then it was everything that you needed, whether that's what you're expecting. Um,
Yeah.
Often people say, on the first day, they're like, "Oh, well, this isn't what I was expecting," and I don't know what the expectation around it is for a lot of people. I think maybe more for some people, it's more that it's going to be like a more classroom kind of setup, more of a I suppose more of a formal space. And
Mm.
actually, I mean, fundamentally, a nurturing birth course looks like a group of people sitting around having a cup of tea, doesn't it? Really,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I mean, it's really important to us at Nurturing Birth, first of all, that the spaces we create are just right. And that goes for everything. So you'll see, from the joining the Facebook group, we haven't just put out a few rules and regulations and guidelines. It's like, no, let's work all together at creating a safe space where everyone feels heard and seen, and it's confidential, and it's you're encouraged to get involved. And it's the same with our courses. We do all of our courses in a home environment. So we never, it's never an uncomfortable, drafty church hall or, somewhere with hard chairs. Basically, if we haven't got a venue where it's one of our doulas hosting, and actually the one Charlotte did was in one of our doulas' homes, wasn't it? Which was lovely. If we haven't got that, then I hire an Airbnb. And honestly, the things that I'm looking for are the sofas comfy and are they big enough to fit everyone on? And is there a nice table we can all sit around and chat over lunch? And hopefully, there's some decent sized mugs to have a nice cup of tea and a bit of cake. So, because most of what we do is discussion based, isn't it, Charlotte? It's we're not the most practical course, and I think there are courses out there that are much more sort of like, oh, let's blow up a birth pool and let's do da. We don't have that approach because there's so much to cover already in the 4 days that we do, because we go really deep into the role, we go really deep into the boundaries and the communication and the business, as you said, Charlotte, because it's all very well, I could do a course where I show you how to blow up a birth pool and how to do a bit of carrying babies in a sling and stuff like that, but that's not going to set you up for a doula career. I think you need more than that.
Yeah, I feel like in that, I think that's where I didn't expect to be told like how to blow up a birth ball and those things. But it was, I think it surprised me, and I think this is the thing with doula work and it's as well. And if people don't understand what doula work is and what the role is, it's so much of it is intangible. So much of it is emotional support, deep work in for yourself, so that you can then support others to thrive in pregnancy, birth, and postnatally. And it's that really important work that isn't, you can't really, if someone sees the worth in it and the value of it, then they get it. And I think that's the tricky part to maybe, but then once I have so many conversations, literally last week, one of the mums from school was like, I've got a friend who's pregnant. She needs to speak to you. And then she was like, I wish I had known you before. And the amount of time, and this sounds really like a bit big-headed, but it's like I hear that time and time again, and it's because people see the worth of what you do and this support that we give, and that is so kind of heart-led that we needed to have those really deep conversations sat on the. I just remember sitting on Lorraine's sofa, like cozied up under a blanket with big cozy socks on. It was just lush, but it's like I was emotionally drained.
Yeah.
I was so emotionally exhausted after the course. And I remember as well, Sarah will know this, that halfway through, I realized I think I approached it in terms of, okay, well, I'm not sure I can support births. I think postnatal is probably going to be what's more feasible with me, for my children, for my husband's job. He works away a bit. And I was like, so I'll just do the postnatal, but that isn't how the nurturing birth course is so it isn't a standalone postnatal course, which makes total sense because the postnatal, what happens in the postnatal is fed from pregnancy and birth. They're not separate. And so I kind of approached it feeling like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'll do postnatal, and then I may do births at some point. And then partway through the course, Sarah knows, I had a big breakdown because I was like, this is what I need. This is me realizing that this is what I want to do. I want to support people in their most vulnerable time during their births. And I was like, how do I make it happen? And I'm making it happen because I'm supporting a birth in July.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's them realizations of, yeah, this is what I need for me to thrive. And this is like the just yeah, it's me. This is
Oh,
what I was destined to do.
I love that. And yeah, you're so right. We have very much our approaches, and we talk about this, that we're not a cookie cutter sort of training school. So we don't do a course where we say, right, this is how you work, this is what you do, this is when you do it, this is how you charge, this is, what your package looks like. We kind of take an approach of, okay, this is, and we go deep into what the role of the doula is. And then we sort of help everybody find the doula that they want to be, the doula that they are. Because, on the first day, we'll say, welcome, doulas. The people who come on the courses, you've already got that sort of drive, that there's something in you that brings you to a point where you want to do this role. We really see that in people. And so we are just facilitating a space for you to find out what being a doula is about, and then find out who you are as a doula and where you want to take it. And I love that, and we see that a lot, that you've just mentioned, Charlotte, that people come thinking one thing and go away thinking, oh, hang on a minute, okay, maybe this and maybe that, and maybe I'll go off down this route, and what have you. And I think the course is very much, it's a foundation for anywhere you want to take it, because we look at the core, the sort of essence of what doula work is and what the skills of a doula are. And then you can take that wherever you want. Although you mustn't take it and do 15 other courses like Charlotte would like to do if she
Already
had.
done it now. Done.
She just likes to keep doing courses. And that, again, that is quite a
Podcast
common
now, it's
thing.
fine.
Yeah, you've got that under control now.
Yeah.
There is that, a lot of people have that, am I enough? Do I know enough? Can I do, I just do that other thing? Or and I need to have this on my
Yeah.
website so people believe in me. But again, we talk about this all the time on the cuppa, don't we? That you are enough.
And I think as well, it's okay to go, I say this to clients now. If I don't know it, that's okay. Like I will either find out the information for you or I'll direct you to someone who knows. Because I think part of that was my own insecurities of being like, of trying to define my worth and be like, well, I have to know everything so that then I can be everything. And that's never going to work. I'm going to burn out.
Yeah,
That's not. So, and I think it was Lorraine who said, she's very successful and has been doing this for some time now. And she was like, I wish she's like, she said she would almost like dial it back and be
yeah,
like, and you were saying to us about how, you're a blank sheet, essentially. You are so now it's yeah, honestly, I can't, there's so many things that I'm like, Sarah said this, Sarah said this. But it's also, it was really helpful in terms of life and relationships, like with my friends and family. And this is really kind of like core life work, really.
yeah. I think that's the thing. It is quite often people say, and this is going to sound terribly, sort of big-headed of nurturing birth, but people often say to us, doing that course changed my life, because we look at the fundamental skills of being a doula are listening. And so we talk about that, don't we? Because actually people are generally not very good at listening. When we're listening to people, we're thinking about what we're going to say back, we're thinking about a story that happened to us and sharing that with someone, and actually really listening to hear someone is quite a skill. So listening is a big part of it. Then holding space. I've forgotten the second one. That was validating. See, I've done it a million times and I've forgotten the second most important thing. So we listen, we validate people's feelings. Because again, if someone says to you, oh, I had a really crappy night with my baby, and you sort of just say, oh, yeah, that sounds awful. But, maybe have you tried this, or da da da, or oh, yeah, when I had my babies, this happened, da da. When actually, we just need to just sit with someone and say, yeah, that sounds a lot. The end. Do you want to talk about it some more? Let's open up on that. Let's go somewhere with that rather than anyway. Let's not go into the fundamentals of teaching a doula course on this Zoom call. But yeah, it's actually very valuable, good life skills. And then the holding space, which is a huge thing, and it's so different. It's so difficult to explain the importance and the skill of holding space for people, but it's a big thing. It really is a big thing. And then the fourth thing that we look at is the signposting. So it's not needing to know all the things about everything. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know everything about birth. I don't know all the terminology. I don't know all the, how things work and, the induction process. And I've never been to a cesarean. It's like, you don't need to know anything. And as Charlotte so beautifully said, you don't need to know those things, but you need to know how to help people find that information. And, there's a ton of help from Nurturing Birth with that, but also you do pick things up, obviously, as you go along and collect really valuable resources and find places to signpost people to. But we're not telling people what to do and, running the show for them anyway. So yeah, it's a really lovely, just a lovely. It's just life skills, isn't it? And as you said, Charlotte, I think often people have a real sort of moment on the course where it's like, wow, okay, didn't even know I needed this in my life. But the knock-on effect is, yeah, really lovely and really nice to see. And it brings me such joy to facilitate those spaces where people can have that journey. I could do it every day, all day. It's really lovely. So let's get back to your course. So you were a small group, weren't you? You were three, so that's quite unusual. We don't usually have courses with three. It's usually four or more, but all our courses are quite small. It's unusual for us to have a big group. And that works really well because it just means you get really comfortable and familiar with your group. It's not too overwhelming. It also means that we can give space to everybody. So the very first thing we do every day of the course is we start with, well, I was going to say it's the first thing. First of all, the kettle goes on and we all make ourselves a brew. The second thing is that we all sit down and we kind of land in our space, and then we do a check-in, and everyone does a check-in every day. And again, it can be a really quick thing, but sometimes, usually the second and third day, stuff has come up. People have been on the course for the day, they've gone home, they've digested it, they've been sort of sitting with it, and it brings up questions or thoughts and feelings and stuff that they want to then share. So every day starts with space for the people on the course, and that's really nice. And again, that it's really nice to have those small intimate groups because everybody gets a platform. And what is beautiful is that by I would say by lunchtime on the first day, everyone is already doulaing everyone else. You really look out for each other, don't you, Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely sized group. And you said, you mentioned that our group was smaller, but I feel like it was perfectly sized for us because you don't want it, you want to have that time to listen to other people, but also share what you need to share. And so that really kind of, and yeah, I think was it day 3? I was most definitely doulas. I walked in and just burst into tears. And it's like, yeah, I think you just just the being in the space with other people, other people's experiences and kind of their knowledge and wisdom that they have to share. We've all got our own stories that bring our own wisdom, and I think it's working out, kind of how we can use that in our work is really, 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 really helpful.
Yeah, it's really, and that's it. It is sharing that wisdom, and there's never a course that I don't learn something as well. I'm often like, oh, I've never heard of that, and I'll scribble something down and go away, and or someone will say something. Often someone says something, I'm like, oh, I love that. Okay, let me make a note of that, and it will go in it might go in the memory bank. That's a bit questionable these days, but yeah, I take something away, and I think that's the thing. It's very much a sharing space where it just evolves and becomes what it needs to be.
Yeah.
And that's really important to us. It's really important to us that everybody feels welcomed and comfortable. And we always say, especially if it's winter, so it's a bit cold when you did it, wasn't it, Charlotte? And you're a cold person anyway. So it's like, okay, bring your slippers, bring a blanket, and then leave anything you want here overnight so you don't have to, trawl it all backwards and forwards. And, bring your food and let's eat together if you want at lunchtime. And I think we went for a little walk one lunchtime, didn't we?
Yeah.
To get
Yeah.
out, and so there's plenty of breaks, there's plenty of, if you need to, make a phone call and check in on your kids, that's of course absolutely fine. But yeah, it's a very sort of welcoming space to be in, as you would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been in a doula space that hasn't been welcoming because
Yeah.
I think it would just be, I think it'd be weird to have
Yeah.
the two don't really go together very well, like a
No,
doula space and not being
no,
welcoming.
absolutely. And certainly not a nurturing birth. We're very keen on, fostering very lovely spaces for all our
Yeah.
doulas. So you mentioned the virtual cuppa. So
Mm,
tell us about your experience coming to the virtual cuppa. So I'll just quickly explain. If you don't know
yeah.
what the virtual cuppa is, it is our weekly Zoom call, basically like this, every Wednesday lunchtime. And I literally mean every Wednesday lunchtime, except for Christmas, where we usually miss a week or two. But every other week of the year, we have a Zoom call like this, and it is for every single nurturing birth doula. The minute they have been on their course, basically. So you don't have to have finished the coursework, you don't have to have got your certification, any of that. You can come to the cuppa, and it's an hour long. So Charlotte, yes, tell us about your experience with the cuppa.
Um, so I've loved the cuppa for various reasons. Like I say, kind of if I've not got anything specifically to share myself, it's more kind of like accountability. It's in my calendar every week. And some days sometimes I can turn up. I was just saying, with Easter just being, I haven't been for a few weeks because I've had various things going on, but I'm intending to come on Wednesday. And it's just, yeah, there's people from all over the world on it as well.
Yeah.
And I was thinking the other day, I have never met these women, and I feel like if one day I would, I'd be like, "Oh, it's so nice to see you." Like it's just such a lovely, nurturing environment. And people, there's practical tips there. People will bring questions. They'll say, like, "What would you do? What would you wear at a birth? What snacks would you take?" Like it's like really practical things when you're like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And then there's also like businessy things. It's like just an open space to bring questions for, I think I brought a question about insurance. But it's these things that like, when I'm working by myself, I don't have that office to go to. I don't have those colleagues to go, oh, what's your experience of this? That's that space. It's that like kind of community that of experience, and it can be people's experience of working with certain healthcare professionals and certain different like the variation of the questions and the chat is yeah massive, and yeah, like I say, I think if I kind of haven't really got much, I think the first one I came to it, it's always a bit nerve-wracking kind of going to something for the first time. I'm like, oh, but actually, yeah, I don't think even when I've felt like I've had nothing to bring, I've definitely taken away things from the other people that have been there just from hearing their stories and their, what their experience is. So I think the accountability is quite a good thing there as well, which I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
lovely. I love the cuppa. I really do. And like you say, I mean, it feels very, it does feel very much like a little community because we have got a lot of doulas that regularly come. So it's a very, I always say to people, it's very much it's there if you want it. We don't have any expectation around people having to come. We don't have any expectation about them being there for the whole hour. Sometimes people rock up late, sometimes people have to leave early. Sometimes, I mean, it's not unusual for people to be eating, cooking, driving and listening in just on the headphone, out and about walking. Sometimes we have people who are actually at postnatal jobs. Sarah Newman, my lovely VA, she's been a few times recently with a small child asleep on her chest, where she's at a postnatal job, and it just clashes with, her happening to be, with a little one asleep on her. There is literally no expectation. You can get involved with it as you like, but if you just want to listen, it's not that, like you say, Charlotte, you don't always have anything to bring. There might be, you just want to listen, you just want to hear other people's conversations and what have you. So we do a little check-in with everybody first, just to see where everyone's at. And then, yeah, it's just, I don't have an agenda with it. So it literally is, has anyone got anything they need to bring to the space today? And there's always something. Sometimes we have too many things. I'm like, oh God, how am I going to get all this done in an hour? We'll have to carry that over to next week. But it could be anything. Sometimes we've had people who've just done their website and they want us to have a quick look through it. Sometimes it will be that they've been at a birth and they want somewhere to debrief it and just somewhere to put it, because obviously you can't go telling the whole world about these things that are confidential, but this is a confidential space where you can do that. Sometimes it's a very, like a business question or an insurance question, or just sometimes people just want to get thoughts on something that's come up. I had this situation happen, how would you have dealt with it? Did I deal with it okay? What would I do differently next time? And we very much think that the doula journey is just that. It's a doula journey. You don't come and do a training and then you're just an amazing doula. There is no end kind of with this. It's constant, constant learning and evaluating and sort of reflecting on how you've done something. So you may have a client and afterwards reflect on it and think, actually, I don't think that, I didn't feel right that what I did with that client. I think I would perhaps do it differently, as next time, or I really liked how that felt, or I tried something and I tried to, I don't know, set up a WhatsApp group with my clients this time, and I really liked that because it worked out for me. So yeah, I'm going to do that next time, or whatever. It's a constant growth and reflection and sort of moving forwards, and the cuppa is just a lovely place for that, isn't it? It's a really nice place to come with all your questions. So going back to your course, so you did yours, I think it was in October, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we were in Bradford in October, and that was the home of our lovely mentor Lorraine, who am I sharing?
She did my mentoring session actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is an absolutely amazing doula. So you have the 4 days, you have the actual physical time of the course, but before that, there's a bit of coursework, and at the end, there's a bit of coursework. So you don't have to go into the ins and outs of what it all was. But how did you find that? I think you enjoyed it, didn't you?
Yeah, it was good. Like I say, I think because I've been a bit of a course geek. There was some bits of it I found I was like, oh, I've covered this before, so I could answer that quite quickly. Other things I had to do a bit more reading about and find the information for. You just got to make sure you reference where you get your information. You're not expected to suddenly know loads about different subjects. So yeah, so I found that was good, and pretty straightforward, like the system. I did it all in what's it, like a Google Doc first, so that then it didn't disappear if there was like a glitch in the system. So, and that means as well that I've still got it. I've still got all of that information in my Google Drive, if I should need it in the future. So yeah, so I found that was good. And then yeah, I think I pretty much did it all before the course started. Then it was the course, and then I did the bits after. I basically set myself, I was like, I'm getting this done before the end of the year. I work quite well to a deadline.
That's good.
Like, this is happening.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you gave me my certification, might have been just before Christmas.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm done now. Like, not like as in like done all of that stuff, and then I was like, okay, now I need to find clients.
Yes. Yes, which you did. So how did you go about doing that?
So I already had an established website, which was helpful. I already have an established Instagram. And I posted on local Facebook pages, which was really random because I do this periodically. And then some of my ex-clients, well, previous clients, who I taught hypnobirthing to probably about 3 years ago, were like, I totally recommend Charlotte. And I was like, oh my goodness,
That's
that's
nice.
nice. Um, it's nice when people are talking about you in the room when you're not in the room. I think that's a nice place to be. I've got it on my to-do list to list on directories. Still something I need to do. I've just amended my SEO. So on my SEO for my website was ranking quite well for hypnobirthing, and I needed to rank well for doulaing. So I've sorted that out. Telling people, literally anyone who will listen, saying, what do you do? I'm a doula. Hi. And sometimes they'll go, oh, what now?
Yeah.
And you go, well, this is what I do. And sometimes they go, oh, yeah, that's cool. I had one, my auntie had one, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, just getting out there and shouting about it, and I mean, initially, before I'd even sorted out my packages, I set up a wait list thing on my website to say, this is coming soon. This is coming in 2025. So if you want to like have my support in 2025, sign up. And I got really excited when people did. That was nice. So yeah, it's an ongoing thing, the marketing and kind of spreading the word. I'm also now on a local, well, like a Northern Doula WhatsApp group, which is really great for information sharing, and also, people will post on there and say, I need backup for this period of time. Is anyone available? And so yeah, networking with other doulas, other people in the baby industry. So there's an independent midwife who runs antenatal classes. So, chatting to her, chatting to baby massage people, chatting to baby groups, chatting to, there's a charity in Leeds that focuses on dad's mental health. And so I've kind of had a bit of a connection with them for a while. And then they were like, well, we need you to come in and be our doula, please. Thank you very much. So yeah, just kind of, it's work. I have this is what I do. This is my job, and
Yeah.
so I dedicate time, to marketing, to social media, to website stuff. It's not kind of like, it takes work and effort. It's not a case of like, well, I've done it and now people will just fall into my lap, which would be
Yeah.
brilliant. I would love it if that was the case, because not
Yeah.
particularly, I don't particularly enjoy social media, but it's
And
necessary.
that's the thing. It's such a big part of, and it's really important to me. It's one of the things that I'm sort of really focused on with nurturing birth is that, well, there's two things that really are sort of like my important go-to things that I'm very keen on making sure we always create. And one is community. So, we've already covered that. The course itself, the connections there, but also the ongoing support from the cuppa and our Facebook group and things like that, and the mentoring. So the community is very important. But the other thing is creating sustainable businesses, because it doesn't matter how amazing your doula course is. And doula, nurturing birth is an amazing doula course, just putting that out there. It doesn't matter how amazing it is. If you come away and you've done your course and then you don't know how to get out there and market yourselves, and you don't know how to create a business, it's no good to anybody.
Mm.
And that was if you follow me on Instagram, I talk about this a lot. When I trained as a doula, there was no business support, there was no help getting yourself out there, and I did it, purely grit, determination, and I don't know, maybe a little bit of stubbornness. But I was like, I'm going to make this work, and I did. But now it lights me up to be able to share the things that I've learned and the things that have worked for me and the things that are working for other doulas, as you've just been talking about, Charlotte. It really is important to me that we talk about those things on the course, beyond the course, at the cuppa, and the word of mouth thing is really important. The communicating with your local network, like you were just saying about, the local doula network, is so important, and that's where most doulas get their work from, is from other doulas at the beginning, until you've built up a reputation. And you will do that, once you become a doula, because the people that you are a doula for, they tell other people and they recommend you, and it starts to snowball that way anyway. That's inevitable when you are building up a business. That does come in time if you are good, and if you are working in a really good boundaried way and all those things. But also getting in with your local birth workers, as you just mentioned, Charlotte, and talking to the independent midwives and the other doulas. That's how most doulas find their clients. And that's obviously really important. That's what we want. We want people to go out there and shine and keep going, because I feel like it should become my strapline, but I'm always saying the world needs more doulas. It really does. It's only ever going to get busier. We all know the state of the current maternity system. Certainly here in the UK, it's absolutely dire in most places. And more people are turning to, paid support.
The
So
last three, well, my client that I've got in July, they have got me because they need support navigating the maternity system. I had a discovery call in over Easter, and they needed support navigating the maternity system. And I had one last week, and they wanted support navigating the maternity system. And it's like, and that was first time birth, second time birth, first time birth, but not British national. And they were like, we feel like we don't know how to navigate the system. And I said, you don't have to be British to not know that. That's, you can,
yeah,
anyone, it's so yeah, it's such a neat, and I think, yeah, people need the support and
yeah.
they want the support.
Yeah, they just need someone that they can go to, someone that's always going to be there, someone that's got their back, someone that's, on their sort of in their team, part of their little setup. And often it's just that they might have been told something and they'll come to you and say, right, this is what I've been recommended. And I'll just say, okay, let's look at this. What does this mean for you? What's your first of all, what's your instinct telling you? Does this feel good to you? Do you want to look into alternatives? Let's find some information about this. Let's and always going back to that. We don't need to know everything, but you need to know where to find things, or who to turn to, or who to ask. And obviously, you come back to nurturing birth if there's things you don't know. We've got a really good resource board as well, which I'm going to share with you later in the week. You'll see that in the group. But it's just helping people make sense of the pathway that's in front of them, helping them come to their own answers, because we're not there to guide them, we're there to support them. We're not going to tell them what to do, but we're going to help them find their answers. And that's it's such an important part of having a good birth experience, isn't it? But have you got any questions that you wanted to ask Charlotte at this point?
Yeah, I'd love to ask you about how you managed your learning for the course. Like, were you working another job at the time, or,
So
with
I
family and stuff?
I do I'm self-employed full time. So my kids are in school, so I was able to do it in school hours. When I first started my business, I was working evenings as well. So I would do any admin or learning or anything like that in evenings. And then as time's gone on, I've realized that I don't function so well in the evening. So I do less work in the evenings now. So it was mainly um, in the kind of school hours, and I would put it in my calendar to kind of be like, right, this is the time that I need to do the nurturing birth coursework, and kind of being quite regimented about that to try and get it just to make sure that I get it done.
Yeah. So it's not, I mean, it sounds daunting, doesn't it, coursework? It's not like, doing a degree or anything. It's all very doable. A lot of the stuff is reflection. So there's a lot of stuff about reflecting on your journey to the point, before the course, we ask you about your journey and your, how you found your births and things like that, and your feeding journey. And then the course itself happens. And then afterwards, there's more sort of reflecting on, your thoughts around being a doula. And everything else we've got in the coursework is very much set up to support your journey. So we start to ask you to think about, resources, where you're going to find information, how you're going to share it. We ask you to do a bit of a sort of personalised project where you take one particular sort of area of the birth world and go a bit deeper with it. We ask you to, and one of the things I think, is really useful, that I think it's the last thing we ask you to do, is actually sort of start to plan out your next steps. So what you're going to do next, how you're going to set up your business, who you're going to talk to, how you're going to do that. So it's very, very doable. And you do have 3 months to do it from the end of your course as well. So some people do it very quickly, and they are very sort of structured and get straight into it and want to get it signed off very quickly. Other people take the full 3 months, and that's fine. So, it's, I don't want it to be a sort of elephant in the room kind of, oh my God, coursework, and for most of us, we've been out of education for a heck of a long time, and we may not be the most academic people anyway. It's nothing to be sort of feeling daunted about, and there's always plenty of support there as well. So yeah, don't want that to become a bit of an off-putting thing. It's
I feel like the information, the questions, the information, if you didn't know the information, it was quite, you could source it quite easily.
Yeah.
Like I say, you just had to make sure that, if there was something that I didn't know about, I'd read about it and I'd go, okay, here's the answer, and here's where I found, like, I referenced where I got the information. So it's not kind of like, I've written a dissertation, it's not like that.
Yeah, and that's the important thing. Exactly. So if you're going to write something in your coursework about, I don't know, the pros and cons of induction, we're not looking at what you've written about the pros or cons of induction particularly. What we're looking at is where you're getting that information from and how you're sort of referencing it, in that, because anyone can Google induction and you'll often get NCT stuff or NHS website come up and what have you. But there are so many more sort of reliable and up-to-date and evidence-based researched information things out there about induction. We want to see that you're finding those and knowing where to go for that sort of information. And then, because as a doula, those are the things that are going to really help you. If you've got a client dealing with something, if you can go to someone reputable and know that their evidence is good, and that they are also, it's rounded and it's not sort of skewed, and it's not sort of very much leaning towards the more medicalised sort of approach that the NHS take, because they are a medical setting. And of course, as we know, birth isn't a medical event. It's it's a physiological thing that sometimes needs medical support. So it's just sort of, anyway, going to go off on a tangent about evidence-based stuff.
I love evidence. You're literally speaking to the choir. It's like my
yeah. And there are some really amazing people out there. And the thing is as well, I would say, if you don't know this stuff and where to find it, that's fine. That's what we're here for. We'll help you. We'll put,
it's not about gatekeeping the information, is it? It's like,
absolutely. Yeah. It's exactly that. And that's why we've created the resource board. As I say, you'll see that later in the week. But it's really important to us that you can, if you don't know any, the people to find stuff from and the great resources, go to the resource board. And there's like tons of stuff there. And you will go down a bit of a rabbit warren, a bit of a rabbit hole with it. There's so much, but you don't have to know all the stuff. And as you so wonderfully said, Charlotte, earlier on, it's okay to say, I don't know, to your clients.
I think there's power in that. I think acknowledging that is actually, it's like, it's quite freeing to go, do you know what, I don't know. Like, and people accept that. People are grateful if you say to them, I don't know that, but I can find it out for you, or I can look for you, or, it's,
And if you've done a good job of explaining what the role of a doula is and you've put your boundaries in there, they won't expect you to know all the stuff. Anyway, we'll go into that another day. Any other questions for Charlotte?
Yeah, I've got a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Emma. Hello.
Hello.
I just wondered what kind of environment mothers, women are birthing in when they require a doula? Is it a hospital-based environment, or are we talking about more home births, or are we talking about what's the other place? Birth centres. Birthing centres, yeah.
So the inquiries that I've had have all been for hospital settings, and I would argue that is a place where, I mean, like a doula is very needed. I think sometimes people think that doulas are just for home births, and I would disagree. I also had someone say, if we had a cesarean, would you support us? And I was like, of course I would. Because, you know, my job as their doula is to support them how they need to be supported. And so if they either choose to have a cesarean or their birth evolves into a cesarean, I'm not going to go, I'm done, see you later. I'm there to support them throughout their journey, and, you know, be that in wherever setting feels best for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I would completely agree with that. And I mean, I've done births for 15 years and they've been everywhere. Cesarean birth, theatre birth, hospital birth, birth centres, home birth. Yeah, there's no hard and fast rule. It's more about the support you bring, and you meet the client wherever they are, you know, and I mean that physically and emotionally, you know. You're just whatever you need to be for those people, and it is a real mixture. I sort of, I think maybe naively at the beginning when I first started, thought I'd be helping a lot of home births and a lot of first-time parents. And I very quickly realised that that was not the case. More often than not, I was supporting people who'd had a crappy experience already. And the second time round, they're like, hang on, there's more to this. I need to, you know, invest in myself and actually get some support. Yeah, so it's a real mix. Absolutely. Great question.
I've just got one more question, if we've got time. At what stage in the pregnancy do the families usually come to you? Is this something that they come, they approach you very early on in the pregnancy, or once the baby's born when they're looking for postnatal support?
Another really good question. How long's a piece of string?
Yeah.
Basically, I've had inquiries from people before they were pregnant, before they even had got, you know, pregnant. I've had inquiries, and this is not unusual. You have an inquiry and you literally go on call for them the next day because they have got in touch with you at you know, 38
5
weeks.
minutes before midnight.
Yeah, they're having a wobble usually in that,
Okay.
you know, or they're getting pressured into something that they don't feel comfortable with and they feel like they need somebody, you know, holding space for them. Most people generally get in contact, you know, around the second trimester, and then you have, you know, and we talk about this on the course, you'll have several sessions with them, you'll get to know them, and we talk about all the things that you might cover on those sessions. Postnatally, some people are very organised and they do book a postnatal doula when they're pregnant. But again, a lot of postnatal work comes from a desperate family who have got a newborn and they suddenly realise, oh my God, this is hard. Everyone's buggered off, you know, partner's gone back to work, mother-in-law, you know, has disappeared. I need some help. So, you know, again, it's I would say probably one of the most challenging things about being a doula is balancing your diary, because you never know, you know.
And you're also talking about 24 hours, right? Being available through the nights as well. I mean, and early mornings. And when you've got a family, that can, I would imagine can be quite difficult to balance.
That was one of my major wobbles, was about that. And I think what I've realised, so, is like building this scaffolding around, or like the foundations of support. So I have now, when I'm on call in July, my husband will be around, but then if he can't come soon enough, I have mums on call to pick up my kids, take my kids to their house. So it's kind of like building that framework of support around you so that then you can support the client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
And it's very doable. It really is. It takes a bit of planning. It takes a bit of I say always communication. We talk a lot about communication. Communicate with your clients. If your clients know that you have young children and you're on call for them, and you may need a bit of time to sort out your childcare, to wait for someone to come, you know, and be with the children, or for you to drop them off and what have you. If they know that from the start, there's no issue there, because they've had that information and they've agreed with it, and they're understanding what, you know, what's going to happen. What, you know, when people get into trouble is when they sort of say, oh, I'm available 24/7, I'll be there within an hour. It's like, you can't guarantee that. You know, be kind to yourself first, make sure you put your boundaries in place, explain them to your clients, and then give them the sort of credit to work out whether they're happy with that. And if they're not, they won't choose you as their doula, and that's fine. They're not the people for you. But actually, being on call, it's at the beginning, it's quite difficult, because you are like a cat on a hot tin roof. You know, you do eat, sleep, and breathe like checking your phone, and you know, it does get easier, and you soon work out that if you've got a really good kind of village around you that you can rely on, you actually only need to call on them very occasionally. You know, it might seem a lot because you may be on call for 4 weeks, but you're only ever going to really call them, you know, once and say, oh, I need to go today. Can you pick so-and-so up from wherever? Or can you be here till my partner gets home, or what have you? That's not going to happen every day. So though it does feel a lot, it's actually very doable. And also, I mean, I don't, you know, I think often this is the way. The people around me were so excited. They're like, oh, it's so lovely. If you've got a baby coming, oh, how nice. Yeah, oh, don't worry, I'll do it. They were like fighting over who could help out and pick up the kids from school and what have you. It's really lovely, you know. And if it doesn't work for you at the beginning, then there are other ways of working as a doula. And there are other doulas often that you can work with to help each other out. It kind of can evolve over time as your children get older. So, you know, this is something we do talk about a lot on the courses, about how to manage that. But yeah, it is very doable. But it's a good question, a common question. How the heck does it all work? Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, Charlotte, for giving up your time. Right. Thank you, everybody.